It is an honor for me to introduce to you today's panelists. We have Dr. Anamika with us, who will be speaking to Professor Rimli Bhattacharya. So Dr. Anamika, of course, needs no introduction. This is the 5th series of the translation artists, talks that we've been conducting, and very enriching series, a novel conceptualization, which is her brainchild, and it's been going on. I'll proceed to introduce Professor Rimli Bhattacharya, who works as Associate Professor at the Department of English, Faculty of Arts, University of Delhi. Her areas of interest include comparative literature, narrative theory, performance history, film and visual arts, primary education and children's literature, and translation. Rimli Bhattacharya has trained in comparative literature and works on a range of genres and forms in a number of languages, Indian and others. She writes on art and artists, performance history and actresses and film. She was script consultant and production coordinator for the film based on Tagore's last and most philosophical novel, Char Adhyay, directed by Kumar Shahani in 1997. She has, and the list actually goes on, so I'll just be very brief. She has taught at JNU, MS University of Baroda, has been a distinguished Indian scholar at the Center for South Asian Studies, University of Hawaii. Since 2001, she has been teaching at the Department of English, University of Delhi. Her ongoing involvement with the classroom experience informs her MPhil seminar course on children's literature, childhood, pedagogy, and literary forms. I welcome you, Professor Bhattacharya. Please put your hands together to welcome ma'am. We have Dr. Minoti Chatterjee with us. Ma'am retired from the University of Delhi as principal of the prestigious Kamala Nehru College, where she served for a decade. In her 10 years, she helped Kamala Nehru College evolve into one of the top arts colleges in India. The college grew culturally and academically under her guidance. A patron of theatre and folk art, the Golden Jubilee celebration of the college under her aegis was a phenomenal success. Previously, she worked in the Department of Political Science, Gargi College, University of Delhi. She has researched extensively on political ideology in relation to pre-partition Bengali theatre. One of her extremely well-known books is titled Theatre Beyond the Threshold: Colonialism, Nationalism, and the Bengali Stage, 1905 to 1947. Please put your hands together for Dr. Minoti Chatterjee. Professor Brinda Bose works as Associate Professor at the Center for English Studies, School of Language, Literature and Culture Studies, JNU. She has almost 2 decades of teaching experience, previously having worked at the Faculty of Arts, University of Delhi and Hindu College, University of Delhi. She's been a visiting fellow, Institute of Humanities and Global Cultures, University of Virginia 2012, fellow at Nehru Memorial Museum and Library 2006 to 2009, resident fellow Rockefeller Center for Study and Research, Bellagio, Italy 2004, and Leverhulme Research Interchange Fellow, UK 2001. Ma'am has several publications. She's been, for those of us who studied at DU, we know her as the editor of the Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway Worldview edition. Thank you so much for being with us, ma'am. Please welcome Professor Brinda Bose.
I would just begin elementarily with, let me confess that when I started my research, I had no access to the Bangla language. I'm not proud of it. I'm a Bengali. I learnt it much later in my life. But of course, I also had very little knowledge of Bengal's cultural history. Since this dialogue is about translation, at one point of time, I'm sure we'll talk about it when we round up the session, I read Rimli Bhattacharya's translation of Amar Kotha and Amar Obhinetri Jibon to partly understand the history of theatre and also, of course, to read the story of this phenomenal pioneering actress, Noti Binodini. So much of my understanding was based on her understanding of what she translated from Noti Binodini. Till then, I had only known them as creatures of the subworld, heard stories. And it was only this translation that led me to re-examine many things within translation, nomenclatures, names, stories, lots of things which I re-looked at. So I think what she's really foregrounded, and we can start with this, is to bring in the complexities which a normal translation doesn't have. I've never read, and this is not for any other than my own feeling, I've never read such a thorough and such a good foreword and afterward. If any of you have read this book, I think it has done it all. So I'm extremely grateful for having gone through this work.
In the midst of all this, we were narrowly saved from yet another tragedy. While my grandmother and our neighbor had been occupied with the cremation of this brother, who's very young, my mother had gradually waded into the river till she was waist deep in the Ganga. I clung to her sari and screamed loudly. Then the grandmother comes and leads the mother away, but the mother is sort of deranged. And this girl, that is the future actress, Binodini, is both terrified by her mother, haunted by the death of the brother, and completely paralyzed. And at some point, the mother breaks down and starts crying. And then when she tries to stop her mother, the grandmother says, "Let her be. She needs to cry." Terrified, I remained silent, but I too was on the verge of breaking down. So the first bit of it is full of such incidents about her marriage to a boy who she doesn't know where that boy went away, why they were married in the first place, and extremely poverty-stricken. And by the time she's 9, the mother decides that they're starving, and this girl has to, like you would apprentice a boy into some trade. So, you know, get into the theater. It has nothing to do with glamour, glory, nothing, just some money.
The other thing that I wanted to, just can you keep this for a minute, the colonial influence in terms of the Xmas pantomime and all of that is the fairy opera, all of it working through in this multi-genre. And I loved the poetry of Sunday at Candlelight.
Yeah.
So, but what, I don't know, do you want to do another reading from? Yeah, no, I was just thinking that if we are going to move to the new book, which we've just launched or relaunched, your work has just seamlessly flown, literally flowed from the translation and your immersion in Binodini's life to this larger study of public women in British India. And I've had the opportunity not to read it as closely as I would like to later, but to sort of take out, to delve into certain portions of the book. And I'd like to talk a little bit about, I mean, of course, the center is the women and the public mainstream theater that they were engaged in. But what seemed to me from your pictures, some of the visuals that we are seeing and that we will see, is how much the city is also a performer in your study. That it's almost as if Calcutta, colonial Calcutta of late 19th century into early 20th, is also a protagonist